the first place Baltimore Norfolk, right?
Right. And look, I'm not saying that suddenly this rotation is going to be fine. I mean, there's still very much question marks, no doubt about it, including Vance Worley, who did pitch very well on Sunday. But it had that feel. Good starting pitching. The hitting was good, but they didn't go nuts and hit a ton of home runs like we've seen them. They got some key hits. They hit a couple home runs here and there. They had some hustle on the base pass to break up a couple double plays that could have ended scoring opportunities, but didn't. And they got, for the most part, save a couple hiccups from Brad Brock, who I think was due to have a hiccup or two. They got really good work from their bullpen. So I mean, this felt a lot like a 2014 second half of the season weekend, and they did it against the Cleveland Indians, who came into Baltimore holding the best record in the American League, and it was an offense that has scored more runs than the Orioles this season, which you wouldn't have thought by watching it over the weekend, but it was just really good to see that. And then it was all capped by the Nolan Reimold walk-off home run, a guy who was in an 0 for 16 slump, had not looked good at the plate whatsoever in recent weeks, and he gets the call to pinch hit, which he admitted he wasn't expecting to get the call against a right-hander on the mound in the ninth inning, and he hits a two-run shot, and it was a pretty fun way to cap off a great weekend for the Orioles.
And an unlikely way, right? I mean, I am the one guy who still has my Nolan Reimold bobblehead. I do brag about that. Every time he comes back to life and resurrects his career and does something of this magnitude, he's watched a lot of other guys get pied over the years, right? I mean, he hasn't had his turn to have the pie too often. It certainly was, it's a nice little Oriole story for him, who seemingly he's like a wet boogie. He just won't go away, will he?
That's an interesting way to describe it, but I mean, look, we know the story with Nolan Reimold. It's been a case where injuries derailed what looked to be a fairly promising career. I mean, I think everyone remembers how exciting it was when he got called up in 2009 and hit 13, 14, 15 home runs, somewhere in that neighborhood, and played well, and then had the injuries, had the two neck injuries 2 years in a row, were just really serious health issues, and he's gotten back to a point where he's a reserve player on the bench. Now, is he anything special? Is he a dramatic difference maker? No, but it was nice to see him get that moment, and certainly gave the Orioles a little bit of a lift there. We know they've been playing shorthanded, certainly losing Hyun-Soo Kim, who should be back here over the next couple of days, but then the news over the weekend, Joey Rickard going on the DL, is going to be out until September with the thumb issue. They need some other guys to pick them up a little bit, even if it's just in a part-time role, and certainly Nolan Reimold was able to do that as a pinch hitter off the bench on Sunday.
All right, so it's been a little while since I have declared a favorite Oriole, right? I think folks knew at one point Brian Roberts was my favorite Oriole, Jerry Hairston. Even before that, there was that Vladimir Guerrero period. I did own an Albert Bell jersey. I was that guy. Brady Anderson before that. I haven't had a favorite Oriole in a while, right? I mean, I sort of like Miguel Gonzalez for a period of time. I've decided that Vance Worley is my new favorite Oriole. I think it had something to do with the sunglasses on Sunday, or the cool shoes, or in some ways some sort of Rick Vaughn thing going on, and a wild thing. But really nice effort from him. It's been a really nice season for him. He's been a really nice find for them. I've decided that I am Worley for president 2016. I'm going for it.
That's an interesting choice. He pitched well on Sunday.
The Vanimal, right? I mean, that's what they call him, right?
Yeah, the Vanimal. And it's funny, you mentioned, he's got the glasses that, not quite Rick Wild Thing Vaughn, but you remind you of it a little bit. He's kind of this bigger guy. You would think he'd be a hard thrower, and he's not. He throws 88, 89, maybe he touches 90, 91 on a good day. Fastball cutter. He'll mix in a handful of curveballs per start. Maybe you'll see one or two changeups. But this guy is fastball and a cutter. I mean, that's basically what he uses. Doesn't miss a ton of bats, but
he's kind of fearless in that way, right? Kind of, sort of, right?
I mean, he doesn't have stuff that's going to wow you, but we've seen this specifically in a relief role, and as well as he pitched on Sunday. I think the jury is still very much out whether he's going to be able to help them as a guy on the back end of the rotation, but he was able to do it on Sunday and put some runners on base, but he really settled in as the game went on, and you just saw he kind of got stronger as the game went on. Didn't have a ton of strikeouts, only had 3 on the afternoon, but you look at what he did after that 4th inning where he gives up the 2 runs. He ended up retiring, I want to say it was 11 in a row to finish his outing. So, I mean, it was really a nice performance by him. And whatever he's been asked to do this year, and in a perfect world, he would be their long relief guy. But we know that this Orioles pitching staff isn't perfect right now. It's unorthodox. It's very unconventional. Some of the things they're trying to do, and for a large
is that
scale,
a nice way of saying it's really screwed up?
Well, but my point is, they're trying. They're in the process of trying to stretch out 2 starters right now. Now it seems like Worley is pretty much stretched out because he went to 102 pitches and was feeling good on Sunday. But these are things you have to do when you have the 14th ranked starter ERA in the American League. I mean, that's
fair enough.
You got to try to do some different
That's
things.
a reality, right?
I mean, we can continue to just sit here and say it stinks, it stinks, it stinks. We're not breaking any news in saying that. I mean, the performance, the numbers are what they are. Everyone has seen that, but they are trying some different things. They decided no more Ubaldo Jimenez. They decided no more Mike Wright for the time being. They decided no more Tyler Wilson other than in a long relief role at the moment with Jimenez on paternity leave. But they're trying some different things clearly with Bundy, and Vance Worley I think is someone who pitched well enough in relief to warrant some more opportunities. And the interesting thing with Worley, and look, he's not a guy that you're going to say, okay, he can start Game 3 of the division series for you. He's not that guy whatsoever, but he is a guy who carries respectable career numbers. I mean, he has a career ERA that is under 4. He's been a guy who has had some decent years. Now, it's been fleeting. It's been kind of up and down. He's had some good seasons, and he's had some god-awful seasons, as he did with the Twins 3 years ago. But he's someone who has been able to find success in his major league career. It's modest success, but we've said this all along. If the Orioles can just stabilize their starting pitching a little bit and not have these 2 or 3 inning outings where you're giving up a ton of runs and you're blowing up your bullpen, they're probably going to hit enough and pitch well enough out of the bullpen where they can overcome it. And you look at what they've done really since the start of the second half. They've had starts for the most part that have been okay. They haven't all been great, but they've been able to get a little more length, and certainly over the last 5 games going into the start of this series against Colorado, 4 of those they've had a starter go 7 innings, and the other is Dylan Bundy, who we know doesn't have the pitch count right now to go 7 innings. So you look at that and you say it's some progress. Doesn't mean everything's fixed. Doesn't mean Dan Duquette shouldn't be trying as hard as he can to try to find another starter, as impossible as it might seem right now. But it is good to see some improvement. And we've said all along, even if the Orioles somehow manage to go out there and find a starter, but even by some miracle, if they could find 2 starters, they were always going to need improvement from some of their incumbents. It can't just be Chris Tillman going out there, giving you a good start, and then everyone else, you're crossing your fingers. And the good news is you've seen Kevin Gausman pitch really well his last couple times out. You saw Worley pitch well. You saw Bundy pitch very well on Friday night. Certainly an improvement from his first start against Tampa. So, I mean, you keep going with it. You keep your fingers crossed, and so far so good with this revamped starting rotation. It's not going to be great. We all know that, but I've said this to you since before the season started. If this starting rotation can be even as good as middle of the pack in the second half, I think this team has a really, really good chance to win this division.
Luke Jones covering all things Orioles. He will be at Ravens camp beginning on Thursday as well, and that's a whole other purple story we'll get to when the appropriate time is here. But we're stuck on the Orioles right now. Now, look, all the good news, they're in first place, okay? I don't want to be the bearer of bad news in any way, but there was a little sloppy baseball over the weekend. I mean, I know there was some hot heat. There were base running issues. There were not knowing the count. Several guys on the team not knowing the count. just some sort of embarrassment. California Penal League, if we're going to stay on the Rick Vaughn Indians tribe thing over the weekend, that, Buck can't be real happy about some of the things that happened. Now, part of it was, Alvarez legging out a mistake made by the Indians late in the game that wound up costing him a game as well. That goes around the middle of summer. It's hot out. I get all of that. But, it was not the most stellar effort on Sunday for sure.
Well, I mean, the play you're talking about specifically was, both Chris Davis and Manny Machado completely losing track of the count. Chris Davis thinks he takes ball 4, and then Manny Machado, who needs to know the count anyway, but Chris Davis flips the bat like he's walking. Even if you flinch there, you're in danger of being picked off, and that's exactly what happened. But, you had that, Scope earlier in the game hits one off the wall, struggled to get into second base on the double, did make it, but it was pretty clear he watched that out of the box. But, overall, you mentioned the beanball situation on Friday night. Adrisamar Despaigne lets one get away from him, clearly unintentional, and I don't think the Indians thought for a second that it was on purpose. Caleb Joseph reacted. You could tell that that was a complete accident in hitting.
It really is funny in baseball. You just see the body language of the guys, and you can see the intent in a lot of cases, right?
In most cases, yeah. Sometimes will a pitcher go rogue and the catcher doesn't really have an idea? Yeah, that happens sometimes, and I think you kind of saw that with Yordano Ventura against Manny Machado last month. But that was scary to see. But that was the one blemish on what was a great outing from Despaigne. So it wasn't no harm, thankfully, other than just a little bit of a headache on Saturday. But Uribe was back in the lineup on Sunday, so it was good to see that. But overall, I think even what we mentioned on Sunday, and as you mentioned, you got the heat, and guys are going to make some mistakes. Now we've seen Manny Machado make too many of those. Bucks addressed that. Does anyone want to bench Manny Machado, even if he does some knucklehead stuff like that from time to time? I think everyone wants him to stop doing it, but you don't sit him down and then you're costing yourself a chance to win a game in the process anyway. So, you hope that at some point as he continues to mature, and he's 24 years old, that he doesn't make as many of those mistakes. And really it's just a matter of hustle in some of those situations. What happened Sunday, they both lost track of it. To me, not a real big deal in the long run. And you mentioned Pedro Alvarez with what happened in the ninth inning on a case where the catcher did not step to one side or the other of the baseline to throw. Terry Francona, I know, even talked about it after the game, that they were telling Perez that he needs to do that, and it was kind of a case where, well, he kind of learned his lesson the hard way. But a couple things I really like seeing, if we're going to mention the negative base running, Saturday night, Chris Davis beats out the double play in the first inning, and the Orioles end up scoring 3 runs after
He also
that.
Played some nice defense over the weekend as well.
Yeah, the defense was good throughout the weekend, and on Sunday it was Pedro Alvarez beating out a potential double play ball. So as much as maybe there's a lapse here or there, which every team has these. It's just we notice it with the Orioles because we watch the Orioles. Most of us 140 plus times a year, TV and going to games. But I think these things happen around baseball. You don't want it to happen a whole lot. And I think it's interesting because if you really look at it, and I was actually talking to a friend of mine over the weekend, a friend of mine who's a Red Sox fan, not saying they're my best friend, but he watches the Orioles a lot as well, and he made a comment and said, one thing I noticed about the Orioles compared to the Red Sox, who had their hands full with the Minnesota Twins of all teams this weekend at Fenway Park, he said he doesn't see the Orioles beat themselves a whole lot, whereas for all the talent that the Red Sox have and how many people have wanted to crown the Red Sox, and I think the Red Sox probably have more overall talent than the Orioles, but he says the Orioles beat themselves far fewer times than he sees the Red Sox do that. And I thought that was an interesting observation from someone who was actually, not an Orioles fan making that comment. And I think for the most part, that's been a staple with Buck Showalter teams here over the last 5 years. And it's why the Orioles, one of the reasons why they've been so much, they've had so much success relative to what we saw here for a long time. So, overall, I think you're very pleased with how this team played. It goes without saying, you take 3 games from a first-place club, a team that had the best record in the league going into the weekend, you'll take it. But, overall, other than just that one or two hiccups, as you mentioned, I thought it was pretty crisp baseball throughout the weekend.
You also mentioned Brock and some issues with him. You can only go with that sort of success out of the bullpen so long, right? I mean, it really becomes a numbers game for anybody. I mean, for Johnson a couple of years ago with the incredible stuff he did.
Well, I mean, it's amazing to think that Brad Brock. Now, the run he allowed on Sunday was unearned, but he gives up 2 runs the night before, allowed Zach Britton to vulture a save. I mean, Britton gets 2 one-out saves, pretty nice for his purposes come arbitration time next winter. But, I mean, with Brad Brock, with Zach Britton, the Orioles have been flat-out spoiled by the way those guys have pitched. I mean, they've been terrific. Brock, even after giving up those 2 runs, a 1.17 ERA. Zach Britton has just been incredible this year, an ERA of 0.65. And it was funny, I saw a few fans crushing Brock for how he pitched the last couple of days, and it just, anyone who says that, it just tells me you have no idea how hard it is to be as good as those guys have been, and how lucky you have to be on top of being that good to have those kind of numbers. There's going to be a little bit of a market correction there, a little bit of a regression to the mean, a little bit. But the good news was when Brad Brock struggled on Saturday night, the Orioles had a 5-0 lead at the time. So if you're going to have a time where you're not at your best, that's the time to have it. But the great news for the Orioles, they've been second in bullpen ERA behind Kansas City, really for quite a while now. They did that without Darren O'Day. We know it wasn't easy for them. We know they had to stretch Brock a little bit more than they would have liked to in a perfect world, but they get O'Day back, and he strikes out the side in the 9th inning on Sunday and ends up getting a win. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting and exciting for Orioles fans to see how good this bullpen can be, having a rested Darren O'Day in the second half of the season on top of what Brock and Britton have already done.
Luke Jones joining us here. He is Baltimore Luke on Twitter. You can also reach him, Luke, at WNST.net. Birds taking on the Rockies now, whom we don't know a whole lot about going into this series. The most important question I have, Luke, is how much do you want for your Jim Palmer throwback jersey?
That's one of the most of the giveaways I get, because you can't wear that kind of stuff typically in the press box, or at least I choose not to. But I mean, it's I give it away to some of my family members, but I'm keeping the Palmer jersey. Sorry, I mean that's one. That's a pretty.
Come on, dude, you're not going to wear it. Give it to me. I'll wear it. I wear my buckled up shirt.
You had to do this over the air. You put me in a tough spot here. I mean, I like my Palmer jersey.
I'm going to eBay right now and seeing what a relationship with a Jim Palmer throwback jersey is going to wind up costing me here. I mean, what's $30? What's somebody going to sell it to me for?
I'm guessing it might be $30 eventually. But right now, I'm guaranteeing there are going to be people saying $75. People that are trying to make a little profit on the ticket. That
$120. Come on,
yeah,
dude.
That's a bit much.
I get a real fake one from China for that.
Like you could probably get one made by Majestic, for example, a Palmer replica.
Yeah, a real Chinese one, right?
Yeah. One of those. I mean, you could. So, but no, that was a pretty sharp giveaway. I mean, I know they gave out the batting practice caps on I guess it was Saturday. And they did the floppy hats on Friday, which, given mine to my cousin who asked already, asked nicely.
So give your floppy hat away, but I ain't got no crack at the Palmer jersey.
Well, if you wanted my floppy hat, you should have asked sooner.
I bought a ticket to go to the game Sunday. I walked up there. They were out of the jerseys.
Yeah, I got to the ballpark probably about 25 minutes before they opened the gates. I think they opened the gates at 11:30 on Sundays, and there were already lines. There were people waiting.
I know. Yeah.
I was sorry to hear that.
I hope you all enjoy your 66 Palmer throwbacks.
I'll let you borrow it one weekend. How about that?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, as long as I can borrow it. All right. I mean, just let me borrow once. Is it nice, or does it feel nice? Is it something you'd actually wear?
Yeah. I think it's it's. Right. It's not the old polyester, or certainly not the old wool jerseys or anything like that. So no, it is. When they've done jerseys, they've probably done this 5, 6, 7 years now. They've done, I think they did Hardy last year. They did Adam Jones a couple years before that. That's one of the best giveaways they do all year. I mean, everyone always goes crazy over the bobbleheads. I mean, that's just kind of the baseball culture that we have. You can't
wear those, though,
But the jerseys, the jerseys that they give out, these aren't, these are pretty nice for a giveaway. I mean, that's a really nice, really nice jersey to come away with.
All right, dude. So, jerseys lead us to the next question. You know where I'm going. I mean, you're not even giving me your Jim Palmer throwback, and Chris Sale was cutting up real ones in Chicago over the weekend. So, look, man, I've asked everyone, and I'm going to ask anyone that I talk baseball with this week. I have heard of insubordination. I mean, I've run WNST for 18 years. I've had insubordination. I know what it looks like. I've never seen anything in a sporting realm more bizarre than this.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, you've seen in different sports, I mean, teammates get in fights in the locker room. We've seen managers and players have to be separated in the dugout before over the years. I mean, weird things happen. And what's hilarious is the Chicago White Sox had a weird story earlier this spring with Adam LaRoche with his son Drake that prompted him retiring. And if you remember, Chris Sale was very outspoken about that. But this was, first of all, on the surface, it was a hilarious story. I mean, everyone who was on Twitter in the hours that followed this, and from the time that Chris Sale was scratched, and everyone's thinking, okay, he's been traded. And then there was a initial rumor that he had the flu, and everyone's kind of saying, yeah, I'm sure that's what is really going on. And then it came out that he had gotten in a nonviolent confrontation with management and was sent home. You're just thinking, holy cow, what was this about? Did he just get mad because some trade rumors, whatever it might have been? And to hear this was over throwback jerseys and him taking a knife and cutting them up and basically ruining what was a sponsored night for the White Sox. I mean, this was it might be too much to say it was the equivalent of the 1966 World Series celebration the Orioles just had a few weeks ago because, well, those uniforms actually looked really good and you'd want to wear those. But it's just incredible to hear something like this. But when you really dig deep, I mean, this is a bad thing that, I mean, look, he didn't hurt anyone physically.
Dude, he needs to be out of Shepherd Pratt.
But, I mean, this is just incredible to me. I mean, now, I did hear, and I don't know if this has been confirmed, but I did hear this. I was listening to some national radio late Saturday night. There was a Chicago reporter, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, was saying that they had talked about, or they knew that, and they were getting these jerseys, the players were getting fitted in the spring, and Chris Sale had apparently said then that he didn't like it. Now, knowing that he kind of went off the handle on Kenny Williams over the whole LaRoche thing back in the spring, knowing that he wasn't happy about these uniforms, believe me, I'm not excusing his behavior whatsoever. It's completely ridiculous. I mean, a child, childlike reaction.
He said he didn't like the collar on it.
Right. But at the same time, knowing that he already had an issue with management, that they said on Sunday that they considered suspending him for that because of what he said about management and how they handled the Drake LaRoche situation, you do wonder if they could have been a little more proactive and said 2 weeks ago when they knew that his turn was going to fall there and said, you know what, maybe move Chris back one day. No one will say anything. If we do it right now, rearrange some things at the All-Star break and just do it. It was just a case where maybe they could have been a little more proactive, but at the same time, there's no excusing acting like that. I mean, it's just incredible. And as I joked, I put it up on Twitter. I just had visions of Chris Sale showing up in the stadium parking lot Sunday morning, dragging the World Series trophy around with his car, a la George Costanza on Seinfeld. I mean, it
really is an unbelievable story, and he's going to get dealt. And to your point, if I'm the owner of the team, I'm like, dude needs a psychological evaluation. Like, are we sure we want this? But nobody's a better pitcher, right? I mean,
right.
If it's just about getting guys out, which is really what it's about, and we've learned that time and time again, someone's going to deal with their Hunter Harvey or their Dylan Bundy or two or three of them for him.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, this doesn't kill his trade value. In all honesty, even though it probably should, I don't think it hurts his trade value really at all.
You think it gives him street cred?
But at right, not a thread. Very good there. Well played. But at the same time, there probably is something to saying, do we know what we're getting into? I mean, this is very irrational behavior. I mean, it's just it's just so bizarre.
Yeah, what else is he not a grown-up about, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And it's not as though this guy has it's not like he has a rap sheet of getting in trouble off the field or bizarre behavior, but again, you look at what happened in the spring, because he was one of the really outspoken guys that weren't happy with what happened with the whole LaRoche situation, and now this. Any team potentially dealing for him asks the question very simply: is this a case of Chris Sale just needs a change of scenery, and there's just a fractured relationship there with the Chicago White Sox front office?
He's in his 7th year now. I mean, it's all he knows. He's been there.
Right.
Most of what he knows is losing. We had a pretty cranky Eric Bedard around here who was relatively similar, right? And at a relatively similar point in his career as well, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, teams clearly going to still want him. I mean, my goodness, look at Aroldis Chapman, who had a domestic violence incident in the offseason. So, I don't want to compare this to anything approaching that, but it's more bizarre than anything else. But it is a big deal. I mean, he got fined. He's suspended 5 days. They absolutely were justified in doing that. I assume they're going to expect him to cut a check to make their sponsor well over a night that was ruined by him because they couldn't use their jerseys. I mean, it's just a weird day. And again, it does make you, if you're a team looking to potentially have to send, and that the rumor is they want 5 top-notch prospects, and I'm not sure they're going to get 5. I mean, they might get 2 or 3 great prospects and a couple other pieces thrown in there from whoever might deal for Chris Sale. But it is something that if you're another team, it at least makes you take some pause and just say, "Oh, what is this guy all about?" Because I just imagine a few weeks back, the Orioles had this 1966 celebration, which was a great night at the ballpark until the game started, if you remember.
I do remember that.
But can you just imagine? And I know Jimenez was the starter that night. Just whoever would be starting. Can you imagine that happening? And then the Orioles suddenly saying, "Well, the starting pitcher tonight has to be sent home, and we're going to be wearing our regular uniforms because, well, he destroyed them." I mean, that's just, that's something that's, it's a slap in the face to the entire organization. I mean, again, he didn't go out and physically harm anyone. He didn't break a law technically, although they probably, could find something in there if they wanted to.
But this wasn't irrational. What did he think was going to happen after he did this?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're talking about this more than 24 hours after the fact. We're into
I'll be talking about this one a long time because this one ain't going to be top. This is DiMaggio, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the layers to this, it's hilarious just when you just.
It's hilarious unless you're running the White Sox.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's hilarious on a superficial level. I mean, anyone who saw the Twitter, I mean, it was just a riot on Saturday night. But when you just peel back the layers to this, it's just like, what are you thinking, man? I mean, it's just really, really weird. And I thought the funny thing, now, this was really funny, Ed. I can tell you Buck Showalter even brought this up. How ironic that Matt Albers, who we know to be a stout fellow, he was comfortable pitching in those as opposed to Chris Sale, who looks like a giant string bean. I mean, I thought that was pretty interesting as well. But just a weird story that, let's face it, going to be very interesting here over this last week before the trade deadline. You would think he has to be dealt at this point. I don't think it hurts his trade value, maybe more than 1-2%, something like that. But again, any team is going to trade for him. They love the stats. They love the pitching. I mean, his numbers speak for themselves. The talent is there and has been for multiple years in the American League. But you definitely, you got to be thinking in the back of your head, is this going to work out okay, or is this going to be a guy we have to walk around on eggshells for? Just a really, really weird situation and just one of the craziest stories I've heard in sports in a long time.
Yeah, it's not our problem, and it probably won't be our problem unless he winds up with the Rangers or the Indians, and then it could be our problem. And maybe we got a little preview of October baseball this weekend with the Tribe and the Orioles. Certainly the Orioles getting the better end of that. And here come the Colorado Rockies. Luke, I know, man, here comes football season. We got a little baseball, a little football. We're going to get it all this week. We're officially going to kick it into high gear around here.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, the Orioles, 17 games over 500. I mean, they have the best record in the American League. They've continued to play just unbelievable baseball at home. This team has a .720 winning percentage at Camden Yards. So, you go out and go to some ball games. You got a great chance to win, regardless of who they're playing. Just the way it's been for the Orioles. Now the road, we'll see how that plays out over the final 2 months or so of the season. But a lot of fun, and then on top of that, training camp gets going this week. Joe Flacco not on the PUP list. Steve Smith, Terrell Suggs, Elvis Dumerville among those starting the camp on the PUP list. As I remind everyone, just a procedural thing right now. Those guys can return to practice anytime they want. This isn't the deal where they have to miss the first 6 weeks of the regular season. But we got that little bit of information over the weekend and just reminded us it's no longer weeks. We're days away, and for rookies and injured vets, they've already reported to training camp. But first full squad workout on Thursday, on top of a first-place baseball team. Life is good for Baltimore sports fans right now.
So my pal Kevin Grace, who I've known many, many years, and he's a big NST listener. I know you'll hear this if I give him a shout-out. He put his picture up of his Palmer jersey, in his seat from the game on Sunday. And I put on there, I got there too late to get the jersey and bummed. I want to buy one now. And I've been scouting around. There's one for $38.95 on eBay right now, Luke. So if I want to buy one, that's the going rate. Plus shipping, I'm sure.
That's not too insane, but
yeah. So Kevin says it's like something you would find in a Walmart.
Yeah, I mean,
and I wrote, I would expect nothing more or less.
Well, I mean, and when I said it's nice, it's relative to a giveaway.
No, man, I want one, dude. I mean, I'm pissed.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's not the. I'm not saying it's the best.
Do you know how often I run around in these buckled up shirts and my Wild Bill Hagee jersey that this family never got compensated for, as well as my Buck Showalter. I mean, I gave my Felix PA away to Goodwill. I didn't want to run around with.
They may have given that back to you at this point. But, yeah, and the thing about the Palmer, I love the 1966. That's just such a classic look.
I should get an Orioles 11 Aparicio 66 throwback and just
end it. I love the Orioles script. You got the orange numerals and the black lettering on the back, which is, they changed that, I guess, starting in 71.
Why do I even want to wear Palmer's name on the back of my jersey? He's not even doing the show to pimp his book. You know what I mean?
Well, he was in Cooperstown this weekend.
Yeah, I love Palmer. Ray Guy came on the other day and said, hey, I'll get Palmer to call in. I'm like, Palmer will get fired if he comes on.
Did you see Michael Ray Guy was in Baltimore on Friday? He actually came to town. I don't know if he was here all weekend, but he actually came.
He told me he was talking about flying in to see Palmer. He told me that.
Yeah, and I know he tweeted about it. He briefly just came up to the press box window to say hello to some reporters. He was already walking away. He was on the other side of the press box from where I sit. But it was good to see our old friend Michael Ray Guy. I always enjoyed his commentary. I like how the see you later. You could book this one to the Orioles. I know
he is a great guest, man. Yeah. Like of all the people who walk the earth, that you can talk any sport, any way, with incredible depth and incredible expertise. Michael Ray Guy's the real deal. He's nothing fake about him at all.
No doubt about it. And he's one of the first people I thought of when the Cavs won the title last month. Just
his son was so happy.
Different guys like that, guys that have been very kind to us, guys who've been really good at their jobs for a long time. He's Michael Ray Guy. Was good to see him back at the ballpark, and I know even though he hasn't been calling Orioles games for a long time, he's someone who's always been has always rooted for the Orioles to be successful. So pretty cool for him to make it back to the yard on Friday night.
So I think it's very, very appropriate that I will say to you, Luke Jones, Luke at WNST.net, and Baltimore Luke on Twitter, see you later. How about that?
Very good. I thought you were going to give me an awesome for the Miz. WWE IC champion was there on Saturday. We had all kinds of people at the ballpark this weekend, but none of it better than the Orioles getting a sweep over the Indians.
I'm going to book this one to you, Luke Jones. How about that?
Thank you very much.
He'll be out in Owings Mills on Thursday. He will be at Oriole Park at Camden Yards Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And you can find him anywhere the internet is served. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Download the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear anytime, anywhere. Morning newspaper at 7 a.m. It will hit your email inbox. All you have to do is sign up at WNST.net. It is free and powered up by Planet Fitness at PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. Last but never least, breaking news happens first right here on the WNST Tech Service. It is free and powered up by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. And I don't know what else there is to say. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook Live, our YouTube channel at WNSTV, as well as Snapchat and Instagram. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.